Welcome to Loving Your Student Body at Cornell. This project is as it sounds like. We as students want everyone to feel comfortable in their skin and love their student body.
Body positivity isn't a movement for one group. Everyone, no matter their size, shape, ethnicity, gender identity, or sexual orientation, deserves to love themselves and be free from the judgments from others or themselves towards their body.
This short series contains a deep dive into the background of body positivity, current movements, actions on our very own campus, and the voices of many students around campus, and our very own experiences with body positivity.
Make sure to listen to each episode to hear many perspectives on body positivity and how you can get involved.
Before we begin, the hotline for the National Eating Disorder Association is 1-800-931-2237. If you are ever in need of help, never be afraid to reach out.
What are beauty ideals? Why do they matter? Who could possibly determine them? Beauty ideals are the overarching traits people deem beautiful in society. These constantly shift over time and are different across cultures. What one society may deem as the ideal could be drastically different from another. In the United States, beauty ideals have fluctuated with technological and economic advancements and the interactions of different cultures as the country grew in population. For female beauty standards, in the early 1900s, women squeezed themselves into S-bend corsets, which pushed their hips back and chests forward to emphasize their curves. Curves went out of fashion in 1920, with straight silhouette dresses and casual attire taking front. Some women preferred a flat chest, exposed skin, and short hair. And then in the 30s, clothes that accentuated a natural waistline rather than forced curves were preferred. Alternatively, boxy clothing and a masculine appearance emerged in the 40s, contrasted with the hyperfemininity and tight clothing of the 1950s. Then, many women strived for a thin, androgynous look in the early 60s and did shape-defining clothing in the late 60s, following the hippie movement. A natural body look was preferred in the 70s, with health as the main focus. This channeled into a fitness craze in the 80s, propping up those with the most toned bodies. Finally, in the 1990s, once again thinness became the dominant ideal over anything else. At the turn of the century, many popular celebrities could be spotted with low-rise jeans and high crop tops, revealing an extremely flat stomach. Later in the 2010s, people appreciated curves online, celebrating women who were curvier. Then, a new impossible standard began to emerge, being slim thick. As some would say, having junk in all the right places. Women with larger chests and butts but very little loose stomach fat became celebrated with this slim thick movement. Some attribute this slim thick standard to musicians such as Cardi B, who has been open about her plastic surgery use in the past. While everyone can choose what to wear and what work to have done on their bodies, it seems as though a patriarchal society always finds a way to comment on women's body choices and then try to compare them. Cardi B has every right to determine how her body will look, and patriarchal society's objectification and constant comparison of other women to her is not her fault. But this is something the body positivity movement must fight against.
Feminist thinker Susan Bordo's insights really help us to understand a lot of the beauty standards and ideals we see today. In her 1993 writings, Bordo brought forth the idea of the tyranny of slenderness, a patriarchal social force which all individuals must live under. But Bordo particularly highlights their effects on women. She discusses the tyranny of slenderness as a patriarchal obsession with women's slenderness, best understood alongside disorders such as anorexia or obesity. The slender body, Bordo argues, signifies power, masculinity, and stringent self-control. In contrast, the larger body is associated with femininity, maternity, and weakness. The problem is that the tyranny of slenderness leaves women perpetually dissatisfied with their bodies, as it pushes the narrative that one can always strive to improve themselves. Being too slender risks being viewed as unfeminine, while being too large is viewed as lacking power and self-control. Women must work perpetually to self-manage their eating and exercise habits, as the perfect body is impossible to achieve in our society, and yet we are demanded to pursue it throughout our lives. Furthermore, under the tyranny of slenderness, the shape of one's body acts as a designation of their social status, particularly when it comes to class and gender. The body signifies the spiritual, moral, and emotional state of the individual. The moralism we ascribe to food, labeling it good or bad, makes it easy for us to morally condemn those who consume bad foods and possess bodies we do not consider desirable. The tyranny of slenderness even permeates how we view and consume media. For example, Vassar College's Mia Mask unpacks the phenomenon of the fat suit and its sources of its supposed comedy. Mask takes Bordo's thinking a step further by including the transphobia and racism inherent in our social constructions of the body. In Mask's analysis of various popular comedies from the 2000s, she notices that the femininity of fat women, particularly fat trans women of color, acts as a source of comedy for the viewers. Films like Big Mama's House and Norbit work because in the eyes of the viewers, those who deviate from the ideals of thinness and its associated high social status cannot be viewed as beautiful. Thus, any recognition of a fat woman's sexuality, or an African woman's sexuality, or a trans woman's sexuality elicits a discomfort from our audience as a way to make them laugh. Mask writes that these films depict the fat woman and her sexuality as a sort of threat, a source of fear, often with an undercurrent of disgust. Filmmakers capitalize off society's discomfort and the condemnation of fat women by aggressively playing up these fears, exaggerating the features of the fat woman, the trans woman, and the black woman as agents of sexual violence, validating the negative moral qualities we as the viewers already ascribe to her. Fatphobic fear-mongering is nowhere near restricted to movies and television shows, unfortunately. A textbook example of moralism and the body can be examined through the history of the Health at Every Size movement. This is a movement which defines itself as an approach to public health that seeks to de-emphasize weight loss as a health goal and reduce stigma toward people who are overweight and obese. While its origins can be traced back to the 1960s, much of its presence in contemporary discourse can be traced back to a 2008 book published by Lindo Bacon titled Health at Every Size: The Surprising Truth About Your Weight. In the book, Bacon calls for a reevaluation of dieting culture, positioning healthy eating and lifestyle habits as a more important goal than weight loss. Bacon also calls for the embracing of one's body, tying healthy choices with acceptance and respect for an individual's natural body, instead of ascribing health to the weight and shape of the body. While crash diets might lead to weight loss, Bacon calls these practices unsustainable and unhealthy, a stark contrast to contemporary media and dietitians pushing a narrative that equates weight loss with greater health. Other proponents of the Health at Every Size movement cite that the conventionally accepted criterion for a healthy body are based predominantly around Caucasian body types and do not take appropriate racial and ethnic differences into consideration. Another critical focus of the Health at Every Size movement is to combat medical discrimination against overweight and obese individuals. As they point out, it is not uncommon for doctors to misdiagnose overweight and obese individuals, mistakenly attributing their ailments to their weight and dismissing their concerns with a simple, "you just need to lose weight." For example, overweight 16-year-old Rebecca Hiles lost a lung to cancer after 11 doctors had given her more minor diagnoses and advised her to just lose weight. "I was telling my doctors that there was something wrong with my body, and they were not listening," said Hiles. Her doctor's dismissal of her concerns on the basis of her weight allowed her tumor to get worse, undetected, until she was finally sent to a pulmonologist. As Hiles put it, fat shaming cost her a lung. The experience of Hiles is a common one for those whose bodies do not adhere to a socially accepted, slender form. Health at Every Size supporters, such as family medicine physician Dr. Michelle May, point out that this is about people receiving inadequate health care and preventative advice and counseling and support and treatment because the focus is on weight instead of managing risk factors. However, as the Health at Every Size movement gained greater and greater traction, so did its pushback. Conservative voices began painting a harrowing picture of the Health at Every Size movement as one which glorifies obesity and encourages unhealthy eating habits. A quick Google search of the acronym Health at Every Size yields thumbnails upon thumbnails of images of fat women in derogatory contexts meant to elicit disgust and morbid curiosity from those who perceive the images of these women. Their nonconformity to Bordo's all-too-familiar tyranny of slenderness makes them the objects of revulsion, all for merely existing. Their images are exploited to push a reactionary narrative online which misrepresents and strawmans the arguments of Health at Every Size proponents, to the point which the movement is now popularly associated with laziness, lack of intelligence, and violence, all of which stem from the fatphobic tropes discussed by both Bordo and Mask.
As Annabelle had mentioned before, the fixation on people's bodies, especially women's bodies, look, has been a patriarchal phenomenon that has lasted and changed throughout time. So what I will expand on is how the male gaze, patriarchal standards, functionality, and accessibility of clothing based on size and gender, social media, the gender binary, and so much more impacts our very own body image, which is defined by Paul Childler in 1935 as the mental representation of one's body that everyone develops. So we all have our very own self-image and opinions on our own bodies. And if there is something we don't like about our bodies, then we typically try to find a quote-unquote solution to fix that. But what structural and socio-cultural elements impact how we see ourselves? In the article, Towards a Comprehensive Understanding of Body Image, Integrating Positive Body Image, Embodiment, and Self-Compassion, the authors delve into how positive embodiment and self-compassion can help combat body image disturbance that can lead to eating disorders and is caused by various external, societally prevalent factors such as social media. Negative body image include dimensions such as body shame and body overestimation, while positive body image is characterized by body appreciation and acceptance. Although the authors of the article warn that negative and positive body image are not opposite ends of the same spectrum. Rather, they are very different constructs in and of themselves, which means that interventions of negative body image would not necessarily lead to positive body image. So, how do we get positive body image? The authors argue the importance of positive embodiment, as in being mindful and physiologically in tune about one's own bodily needs and desires, and knowing how to appropriately respond and treat your body. The theory of embodiment has 5 elements. 1, positive connection and feeling at home in your own body. Experience of agency and functionality, perception and awareness of bodily needs, self-care in response to perceived internal needs, and 5, embodying or inhabiting one's body in the first person. This means taking steps such as reducing consumption of appearance-centered media, social media, or any other type of influence that hypersexualizes bodies and objectifies people to harmful standards and stigmatization, and rejecting messages of criticism regarding one's appearance or weight. Based on what the researchers argue, I see developing a positive body image as a cycle of continuously rejecting unrealistic body images imposed on us by the media or even other people in our lives, and denying the body-shaming culture. This requires a level of perseverance and mindfulness that can be really difficult in a society where the thinner the better is the ideal, where there isn't size inclusivity in clothing, where we are constantly bombarded by photos and videos of face-tuned social media influencers who deny their use of filters or surgery, which, by the way, are perfectly fine to use, but them denying their use of body or face-altering mechanisms can lead to teens and young adults believing that this is how a quote-unquote perfect body should look, when that is not the case at all. Given this, I decided to dive into the impacts of social media. According to McComb in The Effects of Self-Disclaimer Instagram Captions on Young Women's Mood and Body Image, the moderating effect of participants' own photo manipulation practices, exposure to thin ideal Instagram images caused body dissatisfaction and decreased mood, and that self-disclaimer captions that images were altered or the person in the image had undergone surgery or other alterations did not actually help with mood or body image. For me, this indicates 2 important courses of action. Number 1, if no amount of self-disclaimer on images helps, and if the sheer exposure of images that promote the thin ideal is so harmful, then the impetus is on us to be aware that these images are not portraying quote-unquote perfection or even how human bodies really look, and to remind ourselves that to appreciate and accept our bodies as they are. And number 2, the impact of social media on body image goes way beyond having self-disclaimers as the only solution. We need change from the beauty fashion, music, and modeling industries that currently perpetuate these patriarchal and gender binary ideals of thinness, Western beauty standards such as thin nose, high cheekbones, sharp jaw lines, etc., and that capitalize on young people's insecurities. And the impacts of the gender binary and homophobia and transphobia on body image are tremendous. In J.R. Latham's article, Remaking Sex, a praxeography of the gender clinic, he details his own experiences with gender reassignment surgery and how gender is socially constructed, especially how the medical profession does not have the adequate tools or knowledge to address issues relating to the spectrum of gender identities and expressions. For example, in Latham's experience, many medical professionals that he encountered had a very narrow and fixed perception of how someone who's wanting to transition should be, and thus perpetuated the gender binary and patriarchal patterns of thinking, such as when they turned Latham away because he did not want to take testosterone, or when someone called him young lady. All of these acts are demoralizing, and the experience of being denied the body that you feel and think you deserve perpetuates negative body image, which could lead to serious health conditions. So we definitely need change on all aspects of society and culture, social media, all the industries.
All of the ideas we have covered so far about beauty ideals and body image have led to eating disorders in an attempt to achieve whatever body type is idealized at the time. To make matters worse, the very idea of eating disorders has become its own life form that people turn to in order to find inspiration from. Many different social media platforms have contrasting courses of action when it comes to promoting eating disorders. Something that should be noted is that every platform has some form of warning when you search up keywords relating to eating disorders, such as pro-Anna, where they mention that the content that you will find can be very triggering to certain individuals, and you should proceed with caution and offer resources to contact if you are struggling and need to reach out to someone. Some apps, such as TikTok, go as far to actually block content related to these keywords, and you will not be able to find any videos, any creators, or any hashtags related to promoting eating disorders. Other apps, such as Instagram, attempt to censor this content as well, but end up having some gaps in their defense mechanism, where you will be able to find profiles that share certain content without violating community guidelines. However, for a majority of apps, it is simple enough to just click the Continue Anyway button and find the content you're looking for. It is very saddening to see the process behind people who will fall into these bad habits in order to be praised and accepted in society due to nothing but physical appearance. The content that you can find is usually filled with inspiration pictures of what these people, mainly young girls, dream to achieve. There were also many exercise and diet plans shared with others in an attempt to, quote-unquote, help others achieve their skinny goals. While diets and exercise plans are not inherently evil, the specific ones found with these hashtags usually would have a calorie intake of less than 500 a day. Furthermore, people follow these diets and combine them with vigorous exercise plans, which usually result in negative calories a day. As if these young girls do not have enough poisoning their minds, there is a gossip column called Skinny Gossip, whose purpose is quite literally to ravish the sole fact that they adhere to society's beauty standards. Upon further investigation of this column, I have been made aware that in order to be accepted, you must prove that you are skinny enough to be included. You must send in your stats, which include your weight, your height, your BMI, and you must send in reference photos so that they can judge if you should be allowed to join. Not only does this column idealize very thin bodies, they absolutely despise bigger bodies, usually referring to women as pigs and fatties, even if they are relatively skinny by today's standards. The glorification has carried over and become so normalized in society that even Disney Channel decided to poke fun at eating disorders. They included a joke in Shake It Up in an episode where the main characters were working at a party, and a model tells one of the main characters, Cece, that she was so adorable she could eat her up, if she ate. This is the example they are setting for little girls. They pride themselves on content that is family-friendly, but have no issues making fun of something as serious as an eating disorder. In case they or anyone else hasn't gotten the memo, eating disorders are not a joke. They are dangerous, and those who suffer from them need help. They deserve to feel beautiful and to feel as though they are worth something without society constantly telling them they need to change the way they look in order to be accepted. No one should be subjected to this treatment, and it is our duty as a society to move forward and get rid of the glorification of eating disorders. We must come together and show that everyone is beautiful just the way they are, and bodies are not trends. They are what sustain us and allow us to enjoy the beauty that this world has to offer.
Though there always seems to be some form of beauty standard present throughout history, it seems that simultaneously, movements to counteract these conventional beauty standards and embrace the differences amongst our bodies have also been present. Body-positive advocates believe that size is one of the many ways that our bodies are placed in a power and desirability hierarchy. Body-positive advocates work to challenge the unrealistic ideals of physical attractiveness that have infiltrated our day-to-day and promote a positive body image, thus self-confidence. A central belief of the body positivity movement is that beauty is a construct of society and that this construct should not determine one's self-confidence. In addition, many body positivity advocates also encourage those in support of the movement to advocate the normalization of body hair, menstruation, etc. Branching off of these values, many organizations and celebrities have worked and are still working to promote body positivity. From the 1850s to 1890s, the Victorian dress reform movement aimed to put an end towards the trend of women having to modify their appearance and bodies through the usage of corsets in order to give the visual of tiny waists. In addition, during this time, many women fought for the right to wear pants. During the first wave of feminism in 1967, a New York radio host, Steve Post, held a quote-unquote fat-in to protest discrimination against quote-unquote the fat. Eventually sparked from this event was the creation of the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance in 1969 by Bill Fabre, who wished to change the dialogue surrounding obesity and health and end discrimination based on body weight. Second-wave feminism in the 1990s led to the creation of home workout videos for those who felt more comfortable working out from home rather than in public. The third wave of feminism in the early 2000s to present day has gained significant traction due to social media. For example, Tess Holliday founded quote-unquote at F Your Beauty Standards to challenge the unrealistic standards of feminine beauty, which included smooth skin, body size, and a lack of imperfections. Since then, Instagram has become a platform which continues to promote the movement. In 2016, Mattel released a line of Barbie dolls which had 3 different body shapes, 7 skin colors, 22 eye colors, and 24 hairstyles to be more inclusive. Plus-size models such as Ashley Graham and singers such as Lizzo also emphasize the importance of body positivity and demonstrate that people who don't fit conventional beauty standards can also be equally successful as those who do. Furthermore, the impact of social media has led companies to use body positivity as a form of a marketing campaign. In 2004, Dove launched their Real Beauty campaign, which advertises women of different skin tones and body types. Their self-esteem project wishes to, quote-unquote, help young people reach their full potential by delivering quality body confidence and self-esteem education. The company also raises money for eating disorder organizations. In addition to Dove, companies such as Aerie and Savage X Fenty by Rihanna promote all-inclusive body-type lingerie and clothing. The Aerie Real campaign promised not to retouch or Photoshop their models to encourage natural beauty. Other organizations that promote body positivity include About Face and The Body Positive. For more organizations, please visit feministact.com and check out their piece on body image and body positivity.
Well, that's all, folks.
I'm Melanie.
I'm Serena.
I'm Adele.
I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Annabelle.
And this has been Loving Your Student Body at Cornell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Woo!